It's about that time, my guys. First tier list, Outerplane that I'm doing. Let the game breathe for a hot minute. I actually wanted to do a tier list by the time RTA came up, but I thought, you know what? We've had so many good characters pop in. It would be a shame not to do a tier list. This is going to be my first tier list. Now, disclaimer, as we all know, tier lists have an astonishing amount of bias based on the person who's making them. So it just depends how much you trust me. And you can trust me. Alright, let's get into this. These are all the characters in the game. Couple notes. There's a couple assets here that are not in the game currently. We have seen her in one of the event stories, and I do not know who she is. I may have missed her event story, but these characters are not in the game, but these are assets that are in the game. We do expect them to come as characters at some point, so yes, we will get to those. Let's start off. K is first of all D tier. Just gonna throw him in there. He's not useful any way, shape, or form. I would still say Vera's a little better than K, but she's not usable. She's not useful. We're gonna put Snow up in C tier. Iris, she is viable. She's useful. She's early on anyway. When you don't have enough characters, let's say C tier at the bottom of C tier. Now I really feel bad about putting Vera down here, but Iris is undoubtedly much more useful than Vera is. So there's something to be said about that. Lisha, she doesn't do much, right? I would still say she's probably a little bit more useful than K, because she does have a little bit of selfish buffs that she can play around with herself. Early game, she's a decent damage dealer if you don't have any other characters or whatsoever. Sophia, honestly, she requires a little bit more investment than say Lisha, but with that investment, she's actually pretty good. Alpha is interesting. But she's just not useful. She's probably even less useful than Lisha, to be honest. There's just no real reason to use her. Rona gets a bad rap. Rona's kit is actually not that bad, right? I would put her up here. Realistically, probably behind. I'll see what I do about this. I don't like where Rona is sitting. I think people underestimate Rona. And one day when we calm and chilling and I have time, I'll build Rona up so you can actually see what we're talking about here. Rona is kind of strong. You guys are sleeping on her, and I know she's a meme, but stop it. She's cute and she deserves your respect. Ava is probably the most useful in this bottom D tier. Yeah, early game she'll be your go-to Edlith. She's somewhere in the C tier. I guess we could put her above Rona, above Iris, even above Snow. This looks right. Lily is an interesting one. She was one of the only characters who had marked early on, and it was still useless on her. So she's probably even more useless than K. Dolly is definitely mid tier. Miriam, she definitely goes into the A tier. She's very viable. She's very useful. Tanya, her kit is not the worst, but it's also not great, right? I would still say it's probably better than Lisha. Not as good as Sophia. Not as good as Vera. Vera's problem with Vera is that she's good, but she does need quite a lot of investment. Both of these do. Alright, Claire. So when it comes to Claire, I would argue she goes into maybe the B tier. She's average, right? Better than Dolly, in my opinion, right? Dolly's a little bit more useful with the silence, all this good stuff. But I do think Claire has a place, especially when we start looking at Chimera 12 and things like that early on. Claire could be a clutch pickup. Philia, I might be getting her name wrong, to be honest. She's not bad, she's not good. She's somewhere there. That makes some sense. Narukang, probably the worst unit in the game. She's very gimmicky and it doesn't really work. So yeah, it is what it is. The girl Yuna, or Yuno, forgot what her name is exactly. Pretty bad. Not as bad as Narukang, but she's pretty bad. Feinan, A tier. And then we have Miss Poison chick here. I don't even know how to put her in C tier. I'd put her up top though, up top of this A tier. She's a little bit more viable than the rest of these. The poison itself can get some uses, so something to be said about that. Kate is like a really good mid-range tank, so you can put her up here. I don't want to put her above Rona, but she's definitely solid. So down here seems okay. I like that. Cindy is top of A, low S. Let's put her top of A. Let's put her top of A with how useful she is. Even now, you don't see her as much in arena and things like that, but even now, the accuracy boost with attack increase is still good. It's just the only issue is that we have a lot more units that can fill the slots, so it's a trade-off, right? So, but if depending on your roster and depending on the type of units you have, she could be invaluable. So depending on what you have, she could be S, and if you have more units built up, she's A, right? So that's kind of how that goes. We have Party. She kind of can be good. I mean, in synergy with Iris, they synergize fairly well together. There's usefulness here, but I kind of still want to put it down back here, right? Because she's not a standalone character, whereas Iris, you could use her slightly as a standalone character early on anyway, and you would still get away with it. Little Pirate, forgot her name again. If you invest in her, she could be good, which is why she's sitting with Sophia and Vera, because all of these characters need a lot of investment to be good, and they don't even provide enough even after you've invested in them. So that's kind of crazy. There are some characters who you barely use them to the point where you don't even remember their names. She's like a wolf chick type. She's okay. She's probably a little better than Party. Early on, if you don't have enough damage dealers, you'll notice that the C tier, the below average tier, are characters that you're using early on if you don't have other good things to use. And you could even skip them for the most part and you wouldn't even notice. Tio, in my opinion, is still S tier. We have so much in the game at the moment with immunity and all that good stuff that Tios are still really good. She was never nerfed. We just got more units, and then the meta's shifted in a different direction, right? So I think she's still S tier, but in lieu of the meta, I'm going to move her to the top of A tier. Shu, I mean, her kit is okay-ish, kind of, but it just doesn't work. Stella, there's some uses for Stella. I would say she's probably A tier. Keep in mind, I don't have Stella. She's actually the only character on the entire roster that I don't have. Oh my goodness. Smilegate, please give us a Stella banner. Come on, dude. She's the only character that requires complete RNG to pull, and I have not had that RNG, so I don't have her. So she's definitely up here. She's useful, counter teams and all of that good stuff. She's definitely up here in A tier. Not good enough to get to the S tier or better than say Tio in usefulness, but yeah, so it is what it is when it comes to that. And then we have this dude, which is let's just throw him down here. None of these guys are as bad as Narukang. Actually, he might be worse than Narukang, but no, Narukang is too much of a gimmick. So let's throw him down. I don't even remember his name. It starts with a P. Starts with a P. Blue is down here as well. Not super useful. Probably more useful than this guy. More useful than Shu. More useful than probably more useful than K, to be honest. Probably, right? Something like that. And then we have this girl. They try to shove her down our throats early days in the game, where they just give you a bunch of copies. She's bad. Not the worst. Not the worst in the game, but like she's pretty bad. Probably something like this. Actually, she's above blue at the very least, right? So somewhere here. As you can tell, a lot of these lower rarity units are just really bad, right? There's something to be said about her where there's some utility in her stun. So above Tanya makes sense. So let's do that. All right, and then we have Lila. Lila is A tier, guys. A tier, definitely above Marion, above Fanon, something like this. Actually, you know what's crazy? Lila could actually be slightly above Cindy, because she can be used even in this meta, and she can be used in a meta where Cindy is viable. So that's kind of crazy. I would move Stella down here slightly. where I'm saying in viability, we have Tio, Lila, and then we have Cindy, and then we have Stella. Although these can be interchangeable, just in terms of usefulness, I think Cindy is just a little bit more useful. That's all that is. Yeah. And then we have Ritri. Ritri is a similar character to Lila. Both of them do damage reduction, but Ritri is a little bit less useful. So she's about average. She can be used, but she's average at best. And then we have Guzan, everybody's favorite profile picture, and dude is like right there, right there. He has a cool profile picture, but that's all. That's all. I mean, this guy has the closest profile picture to my profile picture, or like my avatar for this YouTube video, and even I don't use this guy. Right? Flamberge, he has some interesting things in his kit. I would actually argue that he's in C tier. Weirdly enough, it's kind of crazy. He's not useful enough to come up here. I would say he's a better healer than Ava, which says something. Oryx S tier. I'm playing. He's down here. He's down here. He's definitely a lot better than all of these guys. I would put him here. Better than Tanya because he can counter, but I think Philia just has a little bit more utility, so she can be used a little bit more. Sigma is like she's like the top of like this D tier. Crazy, I know. 3-star. What? Crazy. Whoa. She has like a priority. No, she just doesn't work. She's the only free 3-star that you get from the tower, and she just doesn't work. She's one of the most disappointing characters. The only 3-stars we've placed on this list, by the way, just for people who don't know what are 3-stars and what are not. The only 3-star we've placed is Stella, the regular Stella at A tier. I just did that because it's pretty universal. I think most people will agree with me that she's an A tier unit. Sigma, the second 3-star that we're placing. Valentine, S tier. I don't care what you guys say. Ren, A tier, probably around here. Ren is definitely stronger and more useful than say Tio, but Tio can be used in a lot more places. So let's do that. Kind of tough, right? Putting a 2-star unit over Ren. But I think it has to be done. But I do think we are downplaying Ren a bit. I think Ren can still do work. I still think she can do damage, she can do work. We just have to update her build a little bit. I'm gonna put her at the top of A tier for now. Alice is a solid A tier unit, above Lila, actually slightly below Lila. Lila's a little bit more useful, to be honest, and below Cindy as well, weirdly enough. Cindy has now become a more niche unit and a niche pick. But if you want to guarantee hitting your opponent, Cindy is still a must, right? If you want to go full cleave and actually hit your opponent with one character, you still need Cindy. Whereas Alice is a little bit more niche because after she does her debuff strip, her buff strip, I mean, she just becomes so useless. She's A tier just based on the fact that she's potentially the fastest unit in the game. Hanbuli S tier. This little girl can legitimately solo 1v4 your entire team in defense mode. Let's not play games. Let's not play games. Noah is still very valid. She's valid. I still put up in A tier. I would still do this. Some people might not agree with me, but to be honest with you, I might still do this. Noah's still good. Guys, nothing happened to Noah. There was a time where they nerfed the talisman so that they don't proc over and over with Noah, and Noah used to abuse the living daylights out of that. So most people took that as a nerf to Noah, which technically it was, and I'll give it to you. But she wasn't nerfed necessarily. She's still super strong. She does damage proportional to the target's max HP. So dude, come on, she still hits hard. Early game, even in late game, if you don't, depending on the units you have, she's still viable. In RTA, she's gonna be a pick for sure. So definitely up here. Not as good as Ren though. So especially when you're talking about cleave PvP, she works, but not as good. Saren is a weird one. I want to put Saren in B, to be honest with you. Top of B. I think she's good. I think she's okay. What she does, another character on this list does better. So she's not super useful in that regard, but she's definitely one of the better healers. She's actually even lower than Lila, because Lila is actually a little bit more useful with her AoE damage mitigation. So something to be said about that. Honestly, you could switch these two. but I hesitate to do so. And the reason I hesitate to do so is because if you put who's this Tio on an immunity set and pair it up with some other kind of set, so you make her like immune and then very evasive, Tio becomes a problem. Immune Tio first round with a lot of evasion, that is a problem, and a lot of HP, that's a problem. So Francesca can be good. She can be good. She has some uses, niche as they may be, but if you don't have any other 3 stars, she's actually pretty good, crazy enough. But I do want to put her, I think this works. She's actually, weirdly enough, she's actually a little bit worse than Ritchie, because Ritchie has more options, right? So you can fit her into more teams than you could Francesca. When she gets going, her damage is up here. It's single target damage, but it's up here. Don't sleep on her. Just because I'm putting her at B doesn't mean that she's weak. She's having a hard time right now, a very hard time. Beth is very interesting. I would put Beth here at the bottom of A tier. And the only reason I would do that is because, again, she's another character who relies on bleeds, and bleeds are not as easy to land as you might think. And also she's single target to an extent, but also she requires that the enemy have a lot of HP. She's amazing for PvE. For PvP, she could be an awesome counter pick once we start getting units with really bulky HP stat lines. So she could be useful. The priority boost on her with the bleed is fantastic. Something like that seems fair. Maxwell, that looks about right. Maxwell can be good. He hits really hard. He has innate penetration in his ultimate skill. Only problem is you don't have his ultimate round 1, his S3, so that's a problem. Eliza was buffed, but it didn't do anything. She's still probably the bottom of B tier, honestly. I still think she's more useful. That's actually a lie. Because I think Edlith is a little bit more useful than Eliza is. Crazy enough. So Eliza is actually below average right now. Oh man, she's struggling in the meta. She's definitely struggling in the meta. Ritchie, I mean, people might be looking at this Ritchie pick and like, what is it B? Dude, trust me, this the damage mitigation that's in here and the fact that she's a tank. If you don't have Veronica in blue stages, Ritchie is going to be your go-to. Veronica is definitely A tier. I would say she's a bit more useful than Noah, because she has more applications. She's just struggling a little bit in the meta, but then in the right team formations, she can be a problem even to this day. So something to be said about that. People are going to hate me for this. Leo is S tier. I know people are like, well, no, invulnerability isn't as good as you think. It's not the best. It's not. No, I get that. But have you tried fighting a Leo? As soon as you hit him, his priority jumps up and then he puts in vulnerability. Even if you do kill him, or even if you use another character, hint down here, to do, to basically cancel him out, by the time he revives, my guy, again, using another character down here, hint, he'll just put up that invulnerability. Let's not argue about this, guys. He is S tier. Even if it's at the bottom of S tier, he's up here. Eternal. Honestly, I think she's actually the top of B tier. She's definitely more useful than all of these characters combined. She's quite niche by nature, but she's quite good. The defense down, so fantastic there. Laplace, very niche unit. Very niche unit. I don't think she's bad by any stretch of the imagination. I actually think she's up here. These two are probably interchangeable in some fashion, and the reason I say so is because Laplace is quite good, but the problem is she requires a lot of investment and you actually need to know what you're doing. And she's mainly a PvE unit, but she can be absolutely devastating in PvP. Something to be said, especially with like a one-shot nuke and with the debuffs that we are coming into. I would argue she's probably even better than Stella. But Stella can still be really good against the right team combinations, especially as we get more characters changing and molding the team, so some things are more viable than others and you start having a lot more team variety. Stella is still a beast, but we can do it like that. I think that works. Laplace, she deserves this, trust me. And then we have Domiak Stella. I would actually argue Valentine is still the top of S tier. And listen, hear me out. Valentine is more useful in more situations than Domiak Stella. But Domiak Stella, when she's done right, a 6-star specifically, right, is really, really, really good. But I can't in good conscience put her above Valentine, because Valentine is that good at 3 stars. And she's a regular banner unit, while Domiak Stella is a premium unit. So, hey man, just in terms of value, bang, value for money here, yeah, no, Valentine is tops. Mene, bro, it's not even play games. Mene is Mene is the best character in the game. I don't care how you look at it. When you don't have Mene in there, you can feel that you don't have Mene. You feel it deep down. A is S tier. For PvE mainly, but she's definitely up here. I would actually argue this makes sense. So A is really strong, top notch, really, really strong character, PvE and PvP. So she does exactly what Lapis does in terms of like nuking a single character. Just A does it really well, and she gets a reset if the enemy doesn't have a buff. Fan freaking tastic. So she can basically kill about 2 enemies all at once. But you have to have a lot of investment into her. She has to hit like a damn truck. But if you can do it, she's definitely S tier, and she's invaluable in PvE. So let's not argue too much about that. Right? Not tier, under the right circumstances, the right builds. She's very, very strong. Not above Hanbili. Nah, I can't in good conscience. I can't. But with the right damage, and mind you, she's not, first of all, she's a ranger, so she doesn't naturally have a lot of damage. So you're going to have to put a lot of work into actually making her hit like a truck. But once you do, in a debuff meta, she is fantastic. She's an S tier level unit. She shuts down healers. So she shuts down Mene, who's at the top of this list. So something to be said about that, right? Sterope, damn, I wanna put her down here. She's probably C. She's probably down here with Rona. It's so sad. But I do think a 5-star Sterope under the right circumstances could be a niche pick in RTA. I would sooner use Idlith over Sterope. I would sooner use Eliza over Sterope. I'd sooner use Snow over Sterope. Okay, I wouldn't use Iris over Sterope. So something like this, right? So something like this makes sense to me. At 5 stars, you do get 20% damage increases with the right combination. So it could change at 5 stars. So at 5 stars, you might move her up. But at base, nah, she's down here. She's down here, and I really don't want to move her up because of the 5 stars, because she's too expensive just to get her to be remotely decent, even below average decent at that. Now Aste, A tier for sure, probably somewhere here, like in this tier range, right? So for every place where you could have been using Tio, you're using Aste. For any place where you're using Aste, you can use Tio. Right, all these 3 healers here are interchangeable in how you use them. If you're using Lila, you could have been using Aste. Sometimes you could use Aste and Lila together. So lots of variation. They definitely A tier. That looks right to me. Cindy is more useful than them. All these 3 are more useful than them. Veronica, I may have a bias here, but I still think she's fantastic to this day. I think some of you guys forgot how strong Veronica is. You can't debuff this girl at all. I mean, you can debuff her for a second, but when she takes a turn, she'll remove that debuff, and then she'll also give whoever has the lowest HP a massive shield. Let's not underestimate the power of Veronica, especially when built right. She's a nuke. She's a nuke. Come on. Demiak Aste, obviously, she's up here, man. She's like there. I wouldn't put her above Mene, and the reason I wouldn't put her above Mene is because Mene makes Demiak Aste work. Without Mene, Demiak Aste drops down. Drops down a bit, probably up to here, because she's very squishy. Killing her twice before she gets to even move is the thing that can actually happen. Killing her at all, once we get to this next character, in the first round is a possibility. Without Mene, she cannot even come up. But she's definitely stronger than, let's say, Valentine, because by herself, even if let's assume she can get her skills off and she gets her S3 off, she dies, she comes back and she gets her S3 off for the second time, killing whoever's left over who revived this first time. She's clutch in that way, making her much more valuable than Valentine, because as long as she has almost 100% crit rate, she will be fantastic to do clutch moments. So in the clutch situations, she'll be fantastic. Tamara is an interesting one. She's definitely up here. She's definitely up here with the Valentines. Demi Stella is I don't know if I want to put her all the way down here. I don't think she's stronger than Tamara, because a properly built Tamara can shut down Demi Stella, right? So something to be said. And by coincidence, this happens to be a meta team. This first four, I didn't even plan it like this, right? This first four happens to be one of the most meta teams in Arena right now. And when it comes to defense, we're talking about maybe a Leo you'll find in there. You might find the Demi Stella. You might find even this. A lot of the units come from here. It's very rare that people pick and choose from this bottom rank, but they do. Alice pops in every now and again. Lila pops in. Estee pops in every now and again. Even Veronica pops in, right? So something to be said. None of these characters ever pop in. None of these ones here at the bottom pop in. Forget about these bottom ones. Christina is down here. I actually think she's less useful than Miss Eternal here. She's average, right? She can get some play, she can get some use. She's going to be more viable in RTA, so there's something to be said about that. She could get a boost, but I don't think I would pick her, say, over some of the units up in this A tier. Now, again, I know I have a PvP bias, but characters like Miriam and Feynan are not necessarily PvP units. These are just great units to have built on your account. These great units to have built, they can have PvP uses. Great unit to have built, PvP uses. Great unit to have built, PvE, PvP uses. Great unit to have built, niche PvP uses. Fantastic unit to have built, PvP uses here and there, niche wise, and then counter pick wise in any case, and then also PvE uses. All of these characters, everyone here, this is mainly PvP. These are mainly PvP, but you can actually use them for PvE. There's a lot of stages where especially Tio is useful, as well as Aste is useful. All of these are like mixed PvP, PvE units that are here. This is like, she's only PvE. She has no real place right now. And the rest of these are whatever. And then we have the newest character in the game, Akari. Akari is interesting unit. I might be releasing a video on how to play Akari, because I do think she's actually quite good. She's a ranger like Tamara, who has a defense down like Eternal as well. But in terms of ranking, Tamara is definitely the first one. The second one is Akari. So it's like these three here: defense down, defense down, defense down. But these two here are rangers, which means they are fast and can go first, which means that defense downs can actually be at the start of the turn. She provides cooldown increases to the enemy. She provides unbuffables for the enemy, so they can't get buffs. Yeah, let's not talk about Eternal. Right? So I think this is the general order. In terms of usefulness, I think Akari is more of a niche unit right now. If we were in RTA and somebody took Tamara and you wanted to speed contest, you could take her, right? You could pull out an Akari so that you could speed contest the Tamara. She's definitely the second best option, but she's an option nonetheless, right? So I would say from usefulness, I don't know where to put her. She's definitely more useful than all of these guys. I would put her up here. Up here. I'm not sure if I want to put her at the top of A. I think Rin, just raw damage. If you build Rin as a raw damage cleaver, she still does a lot of work. She's self-sufficient. She has 100% crit chance by herself, while only building her at 50% crit chance. So there's something to be said about how strong Ren is. You don't see her often. You don't see her often. But well-built Rens are really, really strong to this day. And I think she's up here. She's definitely up here. She has the same type of utility as anybody in this list. Probably a lot. She's actually a lot better utility than most of these people in this list. So I'd put her definitely top 8 here, and we'll call it a day. We're not going to rank these ones. Fight me in the comments, but this is what the list looks like. Everybody here is niche in some way. Everybody here is even more niche. Everybody here is viable in some way, but even more niche. Everybody here, you could just honestly ignore them. They don't even exist as characters in the game and you'd be fine. Sigma needs a buff. Hashtag Sigma buff. Buff Sigma. Buff Sigma. And give us more Sigma copies in the tower every single time we clear up to level 100. She should be a free 6-star. Why are we playing? Why are we gatekeeping Sigma? Give her to us as a free 6-star. She's bad. She's horrible. And then buff her so that she can get to here and be at least viable. Like, dude. Alright guys, that's it from me. I hope you guys enjoyed the tier list. I know it's a bit on the longer side. Fight me in the comments. And just remember, you don't suck at the game. You just need to get good.